this is Nemesis Stars. So it has been 2 years since I made a video on Digimon World 4, and I wanted to bring this back by, making a proper video about it. A topic and whatever. Well, mostly about, like, all the things it had, also the merch it got from it and all that stuff. So basically I'm gonna explain, like, everything that it had first and whatever, and then explain how it would feel if it had a remake. So even though I think it could get a port at some point in the future, it also could get a remake, which I'll explain later. So, first of all, you may basically remember playing Digimon World 1, Digimon World 2, Digimon World 3, so basically I'm going to explain the things that each game had and whatever, so you'd understand the physics that they had. First one was more of a Tamagotchi thing, which I was not really keen on the Tamagotchi shit. The whole looking after thing, it was mostly just to do with the toilet situation or whatever, and feeding it constantly, which was annoying for me. Second one, I wasn't really keen. I didn't even, actually, I never seen it around in the stores as I mind. I didn't see it at all. But I heard a lot of bad things about the second one, so I avoided that one. Third one, I actually did like it to a certain degree, even though it was an RPG, but it had flaws. It had the card mechanic, as well, which I didn't like at all, and it was just confusing from time to time. So moving on to the fourth one, so fourth one is more of a getting into the Digimon shoes sort of thing, even though the intro cutscene tricks you into thinking, a certain thing is happening in the digital world and all that stuff, and you're gonna get all this environment and such, which I think was basically planned ahead of its time, or something like that. So basically the things and whatever it clearly has is, from my point of view, you've got like 4 different Digimon that you start off as and whatever. So the trailer, basically, like the actual cutscene or whatever from the X Evolution movie, it tricks you into actually going for it, to actually play it. So basically you've got like 4 different Digimon, depending on which one you most likely want to start off with, depending also on the type of weapon. So basically for Agumon, you've got the X. So if you start off as him, you get the X. Now, basically, let me just think. Yeah, so Doraemon has the katana, which is a, Japanese, weapon or whatever. Now, Veemon has the long sword, which is basically, another type of, like, sword. And as for Guilmon, he has the dagger. Now, depending on which one you choose, they do different type of attacks. Now, there is one weapon that's not listed in there that you can get later on, you can get at the start, which is another weapon to do with the shooting. So basically the gun weapon is not actually on there, because, that's the starting Digimon. So you do get the guns later on in some point, and such. So, yeah, so the whole point is the Digivolutions are mixed up. So the Digivolutions that are mixed up is Guilmon, he's mixed up. Now, War Grandmon is usually the only Digivolution that's not mixed up with their, rookies mostly. Now, Agumon actually does get War Greymon when you beat Undead Yard. Guilmon gets War Garulamon, which sounds a bit stupid. Even though he should actually be getting, you know, Alphamon. But it's stupid the way they do Alphamon. For him. It's pretty stupid. Okay, so other points of the game is you actually have puzzles. I like the puzzles in the game. They're actually brilliant. I also like going into the roles of a new Digimon. That was the whole reason why I picked it as one of my favorite games. It was actually, well, the funny thing is I actually thought Doraemon was a girl at first. That's why I kind of picked Doraemon as my favorite. Which was pretty funny. I mean, you could clearly see it in the back here. I had a plush, and I actually got this online, because you couldn't find it anywhere else. But, you know, at least I had one of my favorites, for the most part. So it's actually still one of my favorites, because he's supposed to be like an outcast of the digital world. He's, well, the Digimon describes it differently. But I kind of wish they did something similar, with Doraemon. You know what I mean? Something that kind of went with the whole story with Doraemon being the, important role of the digital world. But they didn't. But it's actually an interesting game to grind or whatever, But the story about Leomon is actually interesting, as well as you basically rescue him and whatever and defeat the virus at the end of the game, whatever. I mean, I like the bosses. The bosses are funny, and whatever. So without further ado, I'm going to explain the bad points of the game. Now, first thing I want to basically explain is the lag. The lag is terrible. Now, when you basically have a bunch of enemies in the area, it lags. Which is basically bad for the game in general. Sometimes, you know, the mechanic can feel a bit wonky and whatever when you're fighting enemies. But, you know, the gun I kind of feel was a bit lazy in a way, the gun mechanic, which it's a bit hard to shoot with the gun, because, like, if you're in any shooting situation, it's hard to shoot, because most of the time you'd miss, most of the time, which I'll probably explain what could be fixed later. Okay, so the next thing is, most of the part it's to do with the whole weapon thing, like saying, oh, you basically have to do this or whatever. Now, say for example, you basically get your weapon up to a certain amount and whatever, and you have to, like, you know, switch weapons to do another weapon, which kind of gets annoying, in a way, but yeah, it gets annoying. I remember how many times I got annoyed just really going back and keep switching all the time just to, like, upgrade this certain just to basically do different weapons, and it took me longer. Now, it would have basically been better if the weapon just kept going up and up and up and up and up, and then basically when you feel like it got to a certain rank, go back, change it, come back, then work on it more. You know, something like that could have basically been a change, I think, like, because with the whole weapon thing, you basically have to, like, go back when it's basically red and whatever, and no matter what, you can't really keep using the same weapon or something like that. You have to usually change to another different weapon type, and grind that up and whatever until it changes the color again, but it doesn't last long because it's just weird. Okay, so, So basically the big massive, the big world sort of thing is actually brilliant. You have platform jumping, which is awesome. But yeah, the funny thing is sometimes the spin is a bit wonky. When you basically do attack enemies. So another issue is when you basically have friends, when you basically have another player in the game, more enemies spawn and it makes it really laggy and it's terrible. Now, so that is basically one issue right there, because the more laggy it gets, the more it looks like it's freezing. So I actually complain about it a lot because the enemies intended to lag and whatever, and the characters intended to lag. It just becomes a laggy mess. So basically that annoyed me a lot with the whole lag situation or whatever. It was just terrible. Being one messy mess. My god. It was just like one big giant mess. Okay, so the next thing is just basically revolving around this, the player mechanic again. But this time it's to do with the camera. Now, the camera is fixed on all the players together in a group. So, say for example, one player goes up there, tries to, it kind of messes with the camera, your camera, and it makes you more likely to get hits, which, I was, always struggling mainly to, try to avoid to get hit because of the camera. Now, so the whole camera thing was just, I don't know, stupid, I think. Instead, it should be more of, a certain angle where you could just, roam on your own camera and whatever, kind of similar to, Time Splitters in a way, where you have your own camera and you can just, wander off, mainly. You know what I mean? Just to, explore. That would have basically been better than a fixed camera. Because a fixed camera doesn't work with more than, basically with just a bunch of, characters sharing the same screen. So, yeah, that was pretty bad. Another issue I'd have to basically bring up is the level of the Digivolutions. Now, this is basically to do, whenever you basically got a rookie, and no matter what level your rookie is, you always had to, say for example, you get a new Digivolution, right? It starts as level 1. And you have to grind all the way to the top. Well, you have to grind back to the level you were at in the rookie stage. So me, it took a long time when I got Alphamon in the end. So when I got Alphamon, it was basically a pain to get back up. So I basically grinded on hard mode because, I got more XP. Easy, you don't really get as much. So, yeah, pretty much. But, yeah, it's a pain in the backside because, starting off as a level 1 Digivolution, even though if it was Mega or anything like that, is annoying. Because you want to grind, you want to basically, grind from a certain level. Now, really though, the level should have really started as the same level as the rookie. Now, the reason I say this is because it would have been easier if it was stuck at the same level as the rookie, when you unlock it. Now, the reason I say that also is because it makes it easier and the stats would also be the same. The weapon, stats and whatever. So no matter what you would basically get a new move for whatever Digimon you are. So depending on who you use, mostly. So for example, if I was using Alphamon, I could have grinded all the other Digimon that I had in my Digilutions list. You know, all of them. Everyone under Doraemon. So everyone basically should have basically leveled up along with Alphamon. So the levels should have actually just went with it instead of just going separately, because it takes more grinding and it's just it's just so annoying because it takes ages. It just takes absolutely ages to grind. And it's just a pain in the ass. So yeah, okay, so another thing I have to bring up is Alphamon's bloody dungeon, whatever you bloody call it. I know it's called Doom something, but the dungeon was a pain in the ass when I did it. I kept, basically, because when I was Doraemon, I had fixed on my mind, like, if I do this, I get Alphamon, and I wouldn't have to do this dungeon again. So it is a pain in the ass because the dungeon keeps changing and whatever, randomly and whatever when you go through it. So you have to keep note of everything in rooms, and such, so you'd know which direction to go. Like, if you see a certain Digimon in the room, you basically would have to remember, like, yes, go the other way, and whatever. So then, you know, it took me ages. Eventually I just got sick and whatever, and I just basically stopped listening to the guide, and I was like, you know what, screw this. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it until I basically beat it, and I was like, thank God. And I basically showed off Alphamon, you know, because I was happy that I got him or whatever, and I was like, yep, screw this dungeon. Now, I actually do think that dungeon basically should be in a remake, but not for Alphamon, no. It should be more of a harder Digimon that's harder to get for most part, because yeah, pain in the ass. Okay, so basically onto the remakes, possibility what could happen if it had a remake. Okay, so the way I see it is it could have a change of camera with the Digimon, which I think is a good idea for basically, even though I must say it's probably that Digimon Malfoy was probably a bad game, but it could be done better, in my opinion. It could. Now, the whole jumping mechanic could actually work in its favor. Now, basically, if they change the angle instead of like the overview thing, they could do it in a way that feels better along with the Digimon. And every single player has their own camera, as a whole. So I think it would be better if they had all their own camera. You know what I mean? Also able to switch between modes. So they'd be able to like switch between to like gun mode. So be able to like shoot. So the way I see the gun mode in angle is when you basically tend to aim a gun, it would switch to first person mode, which I think is a good option. Because when you switch to first person mode, I think it works better because with the gun angle and you're able to aim a lot better. Because it would show your Digimon with the hands, just like pointing a gun or something at the, you know, at the enemy. Now, I think that would work a lot better because gun actually probably would work a lot better in first person, because at least then you're able to aim a lot better than you did in the actual game itself. because the mechanics with the shooting was just all messed up, and I think it could be done better if, you know. Okay, so So basically, that should basically be changed into the first person mode, the gun mode. Which I think should be an option for the most part. So whenever you're using a gun, you would be in first person mode, to like aim the gun. Now, I think basically with the whole, like the other, weapons, now the other weapons I think should be in a different mode than the first person mode, you know what I mean, like different than the guns. Now, I think it would be better, to be able to do all that shit. And also, I basically think, you know, it also would be wise to be able to have the option to switch weapons when you're on the go. Like, have a sort of storage, like, menu, that you go to, and you can just switch weapons in and out of your, boxes. So, like, from the bank, like, it would basically send a signal to the bank or something like that, and you just, like, swap weapons in and out even though you're not directly talking to the bank. Now, I think that would be better because, at least then you'd be able to swap weapons in and out and whatever, and, you know what I mean, and place them right there. I also think it would be wise, like, while you're in dungeons, is to have a Digi-Elf, around. Which I think would be a better option because, like, if you're training or whatever, you basically would probably have a certain item that would call out to a Digi-Elf that would basically come to you, and you would basically talk to that Digi-Elf, depending on where you are in the dungeon. So then you'd be able to swap shit out and whatever, and basically, you know, change your weapons and whatever, and continue, like, grinding, and such, which I think is a better option, again, depending on where you are. So, most of the part, you probably would have to be safe from harm, for the most part, or whatever, you know, somewhere that's kind of safe or something. So basically something like that. I also think, you know, it could do with more Digimon rookies, that you would start off as in a remake, and all that stuff. Okay, so moving on to the possibilities of a port. So I think a port would be a good idea, but they would have to fix the lags, fix the lag issues and whatever with the said Digimon, and basically change the camera thing so then every single player gets their own camera, I think. I think that would be better, changing it like that, so then nobody's stuck in a screen. At least then, you know, you get your own camera and you can, like, roam around and whatever and train, you know, on your own terms and whatever, and just keep grinding and grinding and grinding, which I think is actually better. But I also do think that they should add the online mode to a port version, so that, you know, you can basically join your own friends, and whatever in, like, game sessions, and such. Now, another thing I want to say is, I don't think you should basically be, well, I think you should basically start off as one Digimon, and technically, whatever, you know, instead of whole starting over as, like, different Digimon and whatever, you know what I mean? Like, if you basically all have all 4 Digimon anyway, you should really start, you know, as, like, you know, like, from, like, your first ones. Like, say if you basically start as Doraemon, you don't have to start as Vegamon or whatever, because you already have sick data. No, I think it should carry over from there or whatever, so, like, you could just, like, train and train and train and train until you grind and grind or whatever, you know, depending. So depending on who you start off as. So you would still actually, be able to grind as normal and whatever, but no matter which basically star Digimon you would pick and whatever from the 4, you would still start off as level 1. So... but I basically do think, you know, like, the whole player thing actually could be done better, so then basically more players can, like, join in, or whatever, you know, without the lag. Now, I think it's a good idea as well because they could actually add even more players to the game, allowing more online players to actually join in. Now, this would be great because you're actually working together, and even though it would just be a port or whatever, maybe with a remake, they would probably do more of a story-based thing with more than one character, maybe in the future. Which I'm hoping. I mean, I would, like, if Digimon World 4 actually came with a port, I would definitely stream it and play it and whatever, and stream it probably for hours. Because I'm basically that connected to Digimon, even though some enemies are actually strong, like, say, the final boss. I actually did have help with him because he was tricky and whatever, so that's when I had to have my sister join. So yeah, Digimon World 4 can be a bit tricky with puzzles and whatever, but sometimes I had to read up a guide to get through the game and just to get through it and such. So the most question is, do I recommend Digimon World 4 to anyone? Well, yes. I mean, physically, if you don't mind Digimon games in general, no matter what they are or whatever, and don't mind playing as a Digimon, then go ahead. But if you're the kind that basically just doesn't feel like playing as a Digimon and finds it boring, then I'm sorry. So basically, when you think about it, Digimon World 4 kind of feels like Digimon Tamers. Now the reason I basically say it's kind of Digimon like Digimon Tamers is because when you watch the anime, Digimon have weapons. Like Guilmon, for example. Now, Guilmon usually has, like his own paws and whatever, like claws or whatever. But now and again, he does have weapons on his arms. Like, when he goes through the whole Digimodify thing. With the card swipe thing. So basically the weapons is kind of more reflect off of that. To basically show that they can wield weapons, not just Beelzemon, not just like any other Digimon for that matter. So they all pretty much can wield weapons, as far as I know. Now, a lot of Digimon just don't have their actual Digivolutions. There is no Impmon, which I wish there was, because there actually is a Beelzemon in the game. Which I wish. Again, there was more choice of rookies. Like Renamon, Terriermon. I think Terriermon would have basically been a good option, and many other Digimon. I mean, I could just imagine a little Patamon just like running around on 2 legs. That would be funny because it would be kind of true. So depending on which rookie you would probably be, depending on whatever, you'd either be like a champion or something, like anything on like that would be able to walk on 2 legs. I mean, it's understandable for Patamon because, he can like run on 2 legs if he wanted to. Also, Lotmon also would be a good choice of bringing into like an actual remake if it was an option. More choice. Now, there is a bunch of Digimons attached to that, like, Atelamon or whatever, like Digimon like that, mainly that could have been, like their evolutions when you beat Undead Yard, which Undead Yard is one of the easiest dungeons in the game. So beating it actually unlocks your Digivolution, but there is a catch. Now, the whole catch is you have to beat all the Digimon in the dungeon under a certain time limit, and if you do, you basically get the Digivolution and such, which is basically pretty easy. You just have to grind your attacks and whatever up so that you're really strong and whatever. Also, take note, they are stronger than they are, in the normal dungeons at the start of the game, like the yellow versions of Numemon or whatever. Well, they're actually a bit more harder than the normal ones you see in the desert or whatever, so take note of that. So sometimes it's usually best to keep training on them until you eventually beat them. So apparently, that's basically all I've got to say for now. So yeah, so yes, basically stay tuned for more Digimon videos in the future and whatever, so